Hello, welcome back to another video. It's your boy Damien, also known as Dame Jungle. Hope you guys are killing it. I hope you guys just got started on whatever it is you guys want to get started on. Today's video is going to be a little bit of a different approach. My main objective with my content is to provide everybody with some confidence and a little bit of encouragement to chase their dreams, essentially. It all starts, I would say, with a little bit of confidence, and there's so many things that could help raise somebody's confidence. One of them would be self-awareness. The direction that we're going in is discovering a little bit more about ourselves. The topic of today's video is going to be attachment styles. It's not something that a lot of people are aware of. Let's start by talking about what is an attachment style. So attachment style, it refers to essentially the way somebody emotionally bonds or interacts with somebody that they're in a relationship with. It doesn't necessarily cater towards a romantic relationship. It also includes relationships that you have with your siblings, your co-workers, your parents. Most insecurities are brought out or are exposed throughout your relationships and connections with people. There are 4 types of attachment styles. First one being secure, which should be everybody's goal. So with the secure attachment, it means you're pretty much comfortable and secure with intimacy and independence. You're very trusting, and you're really good with your communication skills. You're very confident in being vulnerable and expressing your needs and what you want from somebody, and it just comes naturally to you. The next one will be anxious attachment. Typically what someone that is anxiously attached will have a fear of abandonment. That's where it primarily comes from. They crave a lot of reassurance, closeness. They really crave a lot of intimacy. They tend to be very hyper conscious or very hypersensitive to every single little detail of the relationship. The third would be the avoidant attachment style. They really value independence. They like being alone. Whenever there's some sort of discomfort or some sort of confrontation or a hiccup in the relationship, they tend to go back into their shell and they kind of just stay to themselves. They kind of struggle with emotional connection. They struggle with vulnerability. They struggle with communicating. They tend to just shut people out and stray straight into distance. The last one would be the disorganized attachment style. They tend to show bits and pieces of both attachment and avoidant. You might be wondering why it's important to be aware of these attachment styles, primarily to help you connect with your partner or your family on a deeper level without having some sort of wall up. Once you're aware of your attachment style, it's easier to communicate exactly what you're going through inside your brain. And if you want to really build a relationship, then you can directly communicate, hey, look, this is the type of person I am. This is what I need from you. I just need your support, okay? And if that person does not necessarily know, well, you are now aware of it, and now you can educate them or explain to them, like, hey, look, there are these attachment styles, and I am this one. I want to really connect with you on the deepest level possible, so I just need you to bear with me, support me, and we'll grow and heal from all of this together. Most relationships fall completely apart because of unawareness of these attachment styles. So many problems could be resolved with just a conversation if you are aware of your style. It's primarily men that are not completely in tune or aware of their emotional patterns. This is kind of why I want to bring light to the topic. We tend to not necessarily run away from emotions, but we try to cover them up by being as busy as possible. We tend to take on a lot of work just so we can distract ourselves from whatever's going on in here. And in reality, to be in your true masculine, to be a strong guy, very confident in yourself, you should be aware of what's going on in here. That's where true confidence comes from, knowing exactly who you are. And then when you know who you are, you're able to step up as a man and direct and guide everybody that you're providing for and taking care of. Like somebody that's not very self-aware will tend to react rather than responding. They repeat the same mistakes from relationship to relationship to relationship, and they just don't know why. History keeps repeating itself because they didn't take any initiative to become self-aware. You kind of naturally push people away. You tend to push people away and then regret it later for absolutely no reason. And then somebody that shows lack of self-awareness, they tend to be controlled by their emotions rather than them being the one in control of their emotions. How may have you developed your attachment style? So based on those descriptions, try to figure out what you might be. Now I'll kind of tell you how or possible reasons why you may be the way you are. It comes down to how you were kind of raised. With the secure attachment style, your parents or your caregivers were very consistent with the way they raised you. They were very responsive towards you. They were very loving. They were very caring. They attended to you and all your needs physically, emotionally, mentally throughout your upbringing. So when you were raised in that sort of environment, then you have that confidence in yourself where you're able to communicate how you're feeling. You're able to communicate your needs, what you want, and you're conditioned to think that people are genuinely reliable. When you're brought up like that, then just naturally you're very secure. You have that mindset, that abundance mindset that people will be there for you. Now, moving on to the anxious attachment style, your parents or your caregivers, they might have been primarily very inconsistent, the opposite of secure. Sometimes they were responsive and sometimes they were not. When you're brought up inconsistently like that, you kind of you're kind of unsure of what response that you will get, either present or not present. You learn that love and that attention was very unpredictable. You weren't sure whether you were going to get it or not. When you're unsure of whether you're going to get it or not, you tend to be very hyper vigilant in relationships. You're scared that, like when they're showing love and everything, you feel great, but deep in your mind, you don't know if you're going to get that in a couple hours or the next day. So you tend to be very clingy. You tend to always seek reassurance. You just need to know what's going on in your partner's brain all the damn time. You need that reassurance. However, just imagine your partner, like how they feel. They feel constantly suffocated and they just have that pressure on them to constantly be there for you, to give you what you need in order for you to be okay. When naturally you should be okay with yourself, right? This is just the cause and effect of how you were brought up. And don't you worry, like, it's not set in stone. As long as you're self-aware, I will also share some steps that you could take to kind of break out of these habits and then get you towards that secure attachment style. So with the avoidant attachment style, the way that it could have been developed is essentially your parents or your caregivers were probably emotionally distant from you, emotionally unavailable. They were probably dismissive, or they kind of encouraged you to be independent quite early due to many reasons. Parents were always at work. Your parents were in survival mode and they had to do what they had to do to provide for you, your siblings, and your parents themselves. So when you go through something like that growing up, you kind of learn not to rely on people. You become hyper independent. Maybe it's not the best idea to rely on anybody, and that you putting too much confidence in somebody else could be very dangerous towards yourself. A lot of avoidants tend to be very hyper independent and very fully functioning by themselves, and that's how they prefer to be. But when it comes to being in a relationship, the avoidant attachment tends to feel very alone even in the relationship. You don't feel like you can trust your partner fully because, you're good on your own. You feel like you don't need anybody. But you can't really connect on a deeper level if you're closed off like that. So when it comes to the disorganized attachment style, the way you were brought up is primarily brought up by parents that were kind of disorganized by themselves, if that makes sense. So sometimes they would be completely nurturing, loving, and then it's like within a flip of the switch, they could go to being abusive. They could be distant. They could be neglectful. So it's a very unpredictable childhood that you were brought up in. So that leaves you as a child very confused, emotionally confused. You're scared. Sometimes you're happy. So your emotions are all over the place. You're very on edge and you're very conflicted from within. And that shows in your relationships as you get older. You're kind of confused on whether you want to get intimate or you want to be independent and distant. Those are the 4 different types of upbringings. And, it's up to you to kind of take the initiative to really, really dig deep into your childhood and make sense of how you were brought up and discover your attachment style. Like, you could be secure sometimes, you could be anxious sometimes, you could be avoidant sometimes, you could be disorganized sometimes. You know, there's no one set. Your attachment styles can always change. And just remember, we all want to be secure. We're on that train. We're on that flight going towards security. And look, you're not alone. You're not alone. You know, like me personally, I've been secure, I've been anxious, I've been avoidant, disorganized, you know, like I went through the whole lot. And when I was not aware of any of this, it's like I was imploding. I had no sense of direction. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know why I was feeling the way I was. But then once I learned about these things, you know, it made processing and organizing my emotions so much easier. Men need to start doing that. You know, there's nothing weak about that. It's only strength. Knowing who you are, knowing your emotions, being able to regulate your emotions, that is true strength. You could be deadlifting 500 pounds, squatting 400, and benching 300, but if you don't have any regulation inside your brain, your emotions, your mental state, bro, you're weak. You're weak. You're a paperclip. You're nothing. So now let's talk about how to rewire your attachment style. First step would be to identify your patterns. Ask yourself, how do I react in relationships? What scares me the most? Like, are you more scared of getting too close to someone, or are you scared of them leaving you? Are you scared of you thinking that you're not good enough? You think they might cheat on you, they might leave you. Essentially, you're scared of being abandoned. You gotta ask yourself these hard questions, and you gotta be very, very honest with yourself. Otherwise, you won't get anywhere, okay? You gotta really look at your true core. Try to reframe your past. Try to remember what you can from when you were a kid. Your attachment style is more than likely, honestly, 90% derived from your childhood and what you've experienced and witnessed and went through. Just because you went through that as a child does not mean that you're stuck in that pattern forever, okay? First step is self-awareness, and then once you're aware of it, you can break it down and then rebuild. Believe in yourself, buddy. Trust me. Trust me, it's never too late. Next, you want to practice emotional regulation. There's many different ways. It could be journaling. Me personally, journaling works for me the best. When I'm writing down my emotions, what I'm thinking, my thoughts, you know, it's easier to look at it physically and just organize it all and then move on from it. Because at the end of the day, if you like, a good analogy would be your thoughts, you are not your thoughts. So essentially, let's say you drop a pebble into still pond, you'll see the ripples be strong at the start, but eventually they'll calm down again. Let your thoughts pass just like that, okay? Let it drop, let the ripples occur, eventually it'll calm down again. Talk about it. If you have no one to talk about, if you feel kind of embarrassed, that's okay. Voice record it. Talk it through, and then re-listen to it and be like, okay, all right, okay, go on. So your attachment styles are mostly exposed when you're triggered by something. Talk to someone, because you're not alone. Talk to someone. Go see a therapist. You know, maybe a mentor. Use the world as your therapy. Seek help. You're not alone, man. Find the strength in you to seek help. I know it could be kind of an inconvenience. You might think you're a burden on somebody. You know, you just might feel embarrassed to talk about your feelings. Brother. Don't, man. Don't. Seek help. Talk to people. Everyone's out there, man. You never know. You could be doing somebody else a favor too by talking to them about it, and you know they might be going through the same thing, and you guys can kind of figure it out together. Yo, you're not alone. It's all about community. Just shift your mindset a little bit. You got to be a little bit more positive. Easier said than done, but work on it. Finally, I could just say, just work on yourself. Yeah, it's easy to say that, but you know, like truly working on yourself, working out, working on your hobbies, working on your craft, your art, passions, chase your dreams, you know, work on yourself in that aspect, building yourself while you're at it, not necessarily using it as a distraction, but building that confidence from within, working on what you want to do and not worrying about anything else. You're not really seeking that validation from other people. As kids, we always wanted validation from our parents, and now that we're older, we want validations from the people we're seeing, our friends, even our family at this big age. The day you were born enough. We all have that fear that we're just not good enough. But believe me, I'm telling you, you're enough, you're amazing, you're just what you need to be, and I love you. Let's work on self-awareness and then build that confidence, brother. If you ever want to talk, you can reach out to me. My Instagram is Dame Jungle. We can have discussions through the comment posts. We just got to get talking. We got to build that confidence, self-awareness. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.